We are 15 months into the Israeli army committing genocide against Palestinians. The genocides in Sudan and Congo have been happening for even longer. Please donate to one of the links in my bio, or if that's not possible, keep boycotting and keep sharing updates and these fundraisers. It is unconscionable that this is still ongoing, and those of us who are lucky enough to not be living under such circumstances must do what we can to help. COVID is still here, it's still dangerous even if you're healthy, it's still killing thousands of people every week and infecting and hospitalizing many more. There's a vaccine for new variants that came out a couple months ago, so now is a good time to get that booster if you have the ability and you haven't done so already. Please continue masking or start masking again if you've stopped. Bird flu is also a concern now. It's being found in dairy products and can spread from animals to humans. Please stay safe. Hello, it's Rachel. As you can probably tell from the title, I recently watched a CDrama called Kill Me, Love Me, and it was driving me crazy. So I will be spoiling everything because I need to rant about this show. Also, typically I take notes as I watch something when I plan to discuss it, but that did not happen in this case. I was not going to talk about this show, it was just something to watch. But then the final handful of episodes happened, and they made me feel deranged. So I need to talk about this. So let me start by explaining who the important characters are. Firstly, we have the protagonist, Mei Lin. There was a huge fire in her hometown, Qingzhou, that claimed the lives of her parents and thousands of others. Mei Lin wants revenge for this and undergoes a decade of rigorous training to become an assassin under the organization known as Shadowworks. Next, we have Murong Jinghee, the younger half-brother of the Crown Prince, the man believed to be responsible for the massacre in Qingzhou, and also Mei Lin's love interest. We'll get to that. Then there's the Crown Prince of Great Yan, Murong Zuanli, who is revealed to actually be the person responsible for the massacre. Which, that's not even spoilers, that's revealed in the second episode. There's Yu Qin and his sister Zigu from Xi'an, who are trying to establish peace with Great Yan on behalf of their father. Yu Qin has been in love with Mei Lin since she saved him during the fire, while Zigu is close friends with her and very protective of Mei Lin. And the last character I'm going to be talking about is Yin Luomei, the general of Great Yan. Okay, so hopefully that's enough foundation for anyone listening who hasn't watched the show. So the show opens with Mei Lin witnessing the massacre and a montage of her training. As Jinghee is blamed for the massacre, once Shadowworks deems Mei Lin ready, she is given the mission to assassinate him. So Mei Lin needs a way to get into the Murong family palace, and as Zigu is meant to marry the emperor, Jinghee and Zuanli's father, Mei Lin accompanies her as a peacemaking beauty. Mei Lin is waiting for the opportune moment to strike, and she doesn't wait very long because she attempts to kill him before the first episode even ends. And this scene is where my problems start. So a bit prior to this moment alone, Jinghee had made a comment implying sexual interest in Mei Lin.
王爷，美人们进京之后，经过大选，才分至宗室陈宫府邸。
那本王能分几个？
皇室宗亲4个。
4个。可本王挑来挑去，只觉得这个美人最合眼缘。
So, you already off to a rocky start. Anyway, later that night, while Jinghee is taking a bath, Mei Lin brings Jinghee herbs and attempts to distract him by flirting, but Jinghee easily fends off her attempt to stab him. So he's holding Mei Lin's hairpin to her throat, hard enough to draw blood. After a moment, she manages to get out of this position, but the two of them hear people coming, and for some reason, Mei-lin decides to kiss Jing-hee. Like, for the life of me, I cannot understand the logic of this decision. And they make out for an extensive amount of time. Like, it's so uncomfortable. Everyone quickly leaves upon seeing that Jing-hee is preoccupied, and basically, as soon as they're alone again, Jing-hee practically threatens to sexually assault Mei-lin before he starts choking her with a ribbon. He stops for whatever reason, and in voiceover he discloses the fact that he is the head of Shadowworks. And see, I knew this was not going to be a fun time already because the show made it pretty clear that Mei-lin and Jing-hee were the main romance. Don't ask me why I sat through 32 episodes. I'm stupid. The answer is I'm stupid. The point is, this very creepy one-on-one scene between Mei-lin and Jing-hee made it impossible for me to like Jing-hee. And that's before we even take into account the manipulation of him being the leader of Shadowworks and her being completely unaware of that. Also, I feel like this plan is not well thought out at all. Like, apparently the idea was that an assassination attempt would cause the Emperor to look into details of the massacre and realize that Jing-hee was framed. But I don't understand why he would look into it now if he hasn't already done that in the past decade. Like, wouldn't he just think that this isn't an assassination done out of revenge? And, like, technically, that is what it is. Because Mei-lin quite literally trained to be an assassin to avenge her family and everyone else murdered in Qingzhou. Assassinating Jing-hee has literally been her goal for 10 years. I do not understand Jing-hee's logic. This is so convoluted and unnecessary. Anyway, the first assassination attempt was a failure, clearly. And Mei-lin goes back to the leader of Shadowworks, who, again, is Jing-hee, but he obscures his face and alters his voice so she doesn't know it's him. And she is again given the order to kill Jing-hee, but this time with an incentive. Jing-hee tells Mei-lin that she has been poisoned and she will only get the cure after successfully completing this mission. So Jing-hee is completely ready to let Mei-lin die for him. Either she fails and dies from the poison, or she succeeds, which makes Jing-hee's plan completely irrelevant, and she is executed for killing him. While Mei-lin is attempting to form a plan, she finds evidence that Jing-hee has been framed. She purposefully fails at her assassination attempt, passing a message onto Jing-hee that she knows he is innocent. Now, again, the entire reason that Jing-hee set up this assassination attempt is that he wants to clear his name. So he is very interested when Mei-lin says that she has evidence to prove that he was not responsible. He's now determined to save her from being executed, but solely because that's the way to get the evidence. There's absolutely no care for her. He feels no responsibility or guilt about the fact that he was the one who put her in this position. Obviously, he manages to spare her from being executed, but to atone for the murder attempt, Mei-lin gets publicly whipped. And Jing-hee argues with his brother and father to be the one to whip her. The show tries to frame it as him protecting her, and it's so gross. Like, again, his actions are the direct reason as to why she is in this situation. He gave her the order and poisoned her to ensure she would go through with the assassination. But that is so excessive. Like, is this supposed to be punishment for her failing at the first attempt? Because, like, dude, you are the one who gave the order. You literally knew she was coming. Like, this was a situation where you always had the upper hand, where you always were going to make sure she failed. So if it's punishment for failing, that's, like, so fucked up, because she was never going to succeed. And it just demonstrates his complete lack of care for anyone, which Before someone comes at me with the excuse of character growth, yes, there are incredible character arcs with characters who start off very selfish and constantly prioritize their own needs and constantly fuck over everyone else around them. And yes, Jinghae does become less self-centered and more considerate towards others as the show continues. But his behavior in the first few episodes is just so extreme, and the framing of his change of heart being directly tied to his developing romantic feelings for Mei Lin and wanting to win her affections is just so gross. As I was saying, Jing He whips Mei Lin, and then he carries her, and she thanks him, and the show tries to gaslight me into thinking this is somehow romantic. Now that she's no longer on the verge of being executed, they decide to work together to find the real culprit, and as Mei Lin did not succeed in assassinating Jing He, Shadowworks does not give her the cure. When Mei Lin is following a lead, she finds the medicine she was looking for, but she also ends up in a burning building in the process. Jing He comes to her rescue in the nick of time and takes her to the palace physician.
王爷，属下刚才替姑娘把了一下脉象，姑娘的末脉之毒未解，赤福子的药性使中毒的表征消失了，只是缓解了毒发，为她换得1年之期。赤福子本可解毒，但是梅林姑娘的体质与常人不同，想必在流浪时为求生计，食过太多腐物，伤了身子。若为了解毒再服用赤福子，会即刻暴毙身亡，没有解药。赤福子带来的希望只是虚妄。
是否还有别的办法？
属下可为姑娘配置解毒药方，需要许多珍稀药材，找其绝非易事。
尽快找，需要什么尽管问。
姑娘只有1年之期，就算解药配置成功，她也未必等得到啊。
若等不到，那便是她的命数。
And this pissed me off so bad. Again, it's possible to have a good character arc with a character like Jing He, but he is directly responsible for this because he is the person who fucking poisoned her. If she can't survive until then, that's her fate. You did this to her. You are literally slowly killing her. She would have a much longer life if you didn't fucking poison her for your ridiculous fucking plan. And to make matters worse, Jing He doesn't inform her of this either. He lets her think that the poison has been neutralized. As all of this espionage drama is playing out, Yu Qin is also at the palace to visit his sister, and he quickly becomes concerned about Mei Lin, repeatedly trying to protect her from Jing He given his not-so-stellar reputation. Luo Mei also happens to be at the palace, and Zuan Li is trying to woo her, as he has been in love with her since they were children. Unfortunately for him, Luo Mei has been infatuated with Jing He for the same amount of time. As Jing He and Mei Lin work together, Jing He learns that Zuan Li is looking for a woman with a burn on her wrist. Mei Lin quickly burns her wrist to take suspicion off of the real culprit, and Jing He causes a bunch of other young beauties to suddenly develop burns on their wrist as well, to take suspicion off Mei Lin, as she is now his accomplice. It doesn't take long before Zuan Li reveals his more nefarious side, as during a meeting with Yu Qin, he suggests that all the beauties must be killed. Yu Qin seemingly goes along with this plan as Mei Lin finds him with the bodies of her friends, and Yu Qin insists that he could not save them before he pleads Mei Lin to stay safe while he returns home to Xi'an. After this interaction with Yu Qin, Mei Lin then goes to confront Jing He.
不会让你
对那10个美人做了什么？她们手腕上的烫伤是你做的？
是本王烫的。
我之前问过你，你骗了我，为什么？
你烫伤自己也没有告诉本王，本王跟你一样，只是在拖延时间罢了。
可是你明明知道，阿黛她是因何而死。
本王无意杀人。
可你烫伤他们的时候就是在杀人。那10个美人什么都不知道，就是因为被你选中，做了你的妻子，就落得今日的下场。我也是你的妻子，我还想着和你同行复仇，不可笑吗？
Also, for reference, this is episode 12 of 32. Like, we are dangerously close to the halfway point, and Jinghee is still so uncaring and unconcerned about other people. Like, almost halfway, and basically no character development so far. And I'm supposed to buy that he just like goes this complete 180 character transformation with the remaining episodes. Okay. Anyway, after seeing how upset Mei Lin is, Jinghee then confronts Yu Qin himself, where it is revealed that the women are not dead at all. Yu Qin gave them medicine that would make them appear dead, so he could fool Zuan-Li and take them back to safety. And this is the scene that made me very obsessed with Yu Qin. He tricked Zuan-Li into letting his guard down and gained his trust, and then he also did the right thing by stepping in and saving these innocent women. Also, he did it in a smart way to prevent assassins from coming after them in the future. I love Yu Qin. He has never done anything wrong ever in his life. I don't care what the show tells me in the future. He is always right, and I love him. I will not accept Yu Qin slander. Mei Lin is informed via a letter from Yu Qin that her friends are still alive, but nonetheless the situation causes a huge rift between Mei Lin and Jinghee, and she wants nothing to do with him and refuses to continue working together. Unfortunately, the show continues to push them into close proximity. Zuan-Li starts getting nervous about Jinghee being able to prove that he is behind the massacre, and decides he needs to kill him, making plans to do so during a hunting excursion. Zuan-Li frees prisoners who also want revenge for Qingzhao, intending for them to be a scapegoat for Jinghee's murder. But Jinghee is a step ahead, and he has a cabin in the woods, intending to disappear during the excursion and hide out there until he has the needed evidence. Mei Lin sees Jinghee surrounded by these prisoners and tries to protect him. Because we live in hell, and female characters always have to prioritize shitty men, and will do so to their detriment, and then media treats this as romance. Anyway, short version, Jinghee is injured pretty badly, and they hide out in the cabin together. Zuan-Li and his men find the cabin, leading to Mei Lin and Jinghee to wander through the woods, nearly dying in the snow without food or water as they avoid capture. They eventually stumble on a village, and Mei Lin makes friends with the villagers, while Zuan-Li kills and disfigures one of his men so he can present the corpse to his father and claim it as Jinghee. Jinghee and Mei Lin hide out at this village, and their quote-unquote romance blossoms. The show tries to convince me that Jinghee is actually very tender, because apparently I'm supposed to just have amnesia about the fact that he threatened to sexually assault Mei Lin and then tried to strangle her just 15 episodes ago. Yes, things happen that quickly. I don't want to talk too much about this segment of the show because this whole village thing was insufferable to me. But the important thing is that Jinghee confesses that he has fallen for Mei Lin, and she says she reciprocates, and they kiss, and they basically make unofficial plans to get married once Zuan-Li has been brought to justice. While all of that is going on, Yu Qin has come up with his own plan to protect Mei Lin. The only way he can ensure that Zuan-Li cannot harm her is if she becomes the princess heir of Xi'an, meaning that Yu Qin has to become the prince heir, and they must get married. So Yu Qin basically blackmails the high priest into naming him the prince heir, and she goes through with it. Yu Qin is chosen over his brother at the ceremony to decide Xi'an's next successor.
这岳昆仑转世神女在炎朝招经。
邵君飞是炎人。
夫君，这日月昆仑乃是西炎天神左右神使，神女既是岳昆仑， 定是西燕人，想必只是暂居在燕朝而已。
少君殿下所言有理，
即刻派人去寻，务必要找到神女，带回西燕。
夫君，儿臣请奏。儿臣在燕朝待过几年，尤其是对昭经颇为了解，由儿臣寻找神女，势必攻城。
少君殿下英明，殿下何以料定皇上会相信日月神使转世之说？
每个站在权力巅峰之人，有谁不渴望长生不老呢？
And I just love this scene so much. Like, Yu Chen is such an expert at reading people. Like, he tricked Zuan Li into believing they're on the same side, and now he orchestrated this story that he knows is exactly what his father wants to hear. Like, I love that he is scheming people for the sole purpose of protecting Mei Lin. Meanwhile, Zuan Li continues trying to convince Luo Mei to marry him, becoming even more relentless in his pursuit now that everyone believes Jinghe is dead. Luo Mei has rejected Zuan Li probably close to a dozen times at this point. But after the two of them are alone together and dosed with an aphrodisiac, which was Zuan Li's doing, by the way, she is suddenly in love with him because he didn't let things progress beyond a kiss, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but okay, sure. Of course, once Luo Mei agrees to marry him, this is when Jinghe and Mei Lin return with evidence against Zuan Li. As Jinghe attempts to present this information to his father, he suddenly falls ill. Unsurprisingly, this is Zuan Li's doing. One of his men has poisoned the emperor. As Zuan Li has not been publicly exposed as the traitor, and the emperor is unconscious and dying, Jinghe and Mei Lin are forced to flee again, leading Jinghe to desperately search for a method of saving his father. Jinghe still considers Luo Mei a friend and meets her in secret to give her the evidence against Zuan Li. Luo Mei, who has basically dedicated her life to serving the people of Great Yan, who was insistent on not returning Zuan Li's feelings until 3 episodes prior, confronts Zuan Li to see if what Jinghe told her is actually true. And this scene is fucking bonkers. It broke my brain.
若非我在青州放手一搏，让老三失了民心，父皇怎么会让我入主东宫？我怎么能像现在这样站到你的面前，让你能够看到我？洛梅，你已许我一世，我不许你收回去。青州一事，我已饶他一命，他却不肯放弃，执意要翻案，破坏你和我，破坏这一切。只要有他在，我永远都是输的。在的。
时至今日，你还是没有丝毫悔过。打到你消气为止。这一巴掌，是为了青州所有冤死的亡魂。这一巴掌，是为了对你寄予厚望的皇上。这一巴掌，是为了我自己。我王城主角爱国，竟然爱上了你。
The way this scene starts out, it has us thinking that Luo Mei is going to turn Zuan Li in because she's furious with him. But then she just deflates and insinuates that she's going to help him cover this up because she can't bear to turn him in. And I had to pause the episode and sit with my head in my hands for like 10 minutes because we have this badass female warrior who is so respected that she leads an army. And she is in love with a man whose actions are literally the antithesis of her morals. Like, girl, please stand up. After Jing-hee realizes he cannot count on Luo Mei for help, Mei-lin turns to Zigu. Ever since Mei-lin's disappearance, Zigu has grown closer to the Emperor, and she cannot bear the thought of him dying. We see her praying to the gods to save the Emperor and bargaining to trade decades of her life for his. And if you want to feel really gross about that, it's mentioned in a later episode that she's not even in her 20s yet. And a reminder that she is married to the Emperor, a man that has to be around 3 times her age. Excuse me while I vomit. Anyway, Zigu is desperate to save the Emperor, and upon hearing there is a way to reverse the poison, she immediately agrees to Mei-lin's plan. Unfortunately, after this interaction, Mei-lin is spotted by Zuan-li and barely escapes from the palace. Jing-hee decides he is not willing to risk her life, and asks Yu-chin to take her to safety, staging a scene where he finally confesses to being the leader of Shadowworks, that she has less than a year of her life left because of the poison, and claiming that their time in the village meant nothing to him and that Mei-lin was stupid to believe that he loved her. As Mei-lin begs him to stop saying such cruel things, Jing-hee shoves her away, causing Mei-lin to drop her stone hairpin, and it breaks. Now, I hadn't brought up the stone hairpin until this scene, but it is the only thing she has remaining from her parents. And Jing-hee knows this. There's this whole quote-unquote playful thing he did where he stole her hairpin and said he was going to keep it until they had brought Zuan-li to justice. And I don't remember how she gets it back, but she has it back at this point. When I tell you this scene made me fly into a rage. Like, I had to pull up like 5 chats with friends to message them and scream about this, because I was seeing red. I was so angry. And I know he didn't intentionally break it, but again, he knew what the hairpin meant to her, and it again shows his lack of care for other people. And before anyone tries to argue that he was being this aggressive to force her to leave, there were other methods to get her to safety. Like, if the argument is he had to be this aggressive to make her leave, she still didn't want to leave, even when he was being this cruel. Because she was still pleading with him to stop, and she still wanted to stay. So just find another reason to get her onto that carriage with Yu-chin, other than destroying the one item that means so much to her. And if there are any Jing-hee defenders listening, I'm sure you want me to mention that he does repair the hairpin, which, like, yes, that's true, he does. But the show tries to gaslight me into thinking this is romantic, and it's not. He literally owes her this because he's the fucking reason it's broken. Like, the framing of almost everything Jing-hee does is just so fucking warped. Back to the plot. Zuan-li's troops arrive moments after Yu-chin and Mei-lin leave. As Jing-hee is being taken to his brother, he says he will confess his crimes and turn himself in. But when it comes time to give the confession, Jing-hee gives a public statement against Zuan-li, leading the two of them into battle. And it's just absolute carnage. Understandably, Jing-hee doesn't expect to make it out alive. That's why he sent Mei-lin away. And honestly, he shouldn't have, because he gets stabbed an obscene amount of times. But just when it seems like there's no way for him to win, suddenly the Emperor is awake. Zuan-li never expected the poison could be reversed, and he's now no longer hiding his villainy, and he tries to kill their father in front of witnesses, but Jing-hee and Luo Mei stop him. Zuan-li is then taken away by guards and executed, and Luo Mei is exiled and she is removed from her position of general. Off-screen, apparently, Yu Qin has told Mei Lin everything about the plan that he came up with to protect her, and Mei Lin has agreed to marry him to cover up for the lies he told. You might be wondering where the story can possibly go now, as there's still 9 episodes left, the final third of the show, and the villain is dead. That means time for a newer, weaker antagonist. Yay! So Xian's general hates Yu Qin and suspects Yu Qin and the High Priest are working together. He's determined for Yu Qin to either have his title revoked or to be killed, honestly. He just really hates Yu Qin and doesn't want to see him ascend to the throne. As the general tries to form a plan on how to oust him, Yu Qin and Mei Lin are away overseeing the efforts to reestablish Qingzhou. And because the show will not stop shoving Jinghe down my throat, Jinghe's father approves Jinghe as the new governor of Qingzhou, meaning the 3 of them remain intertwined. Anyway, the general learns that Yu Qin has a very rare flower that can cure pretty much any illness, as Jinghe had given it to Yu Qin to cure Mei Lin. And okay, so the reason Mei Lin has not gotten the cure yet is because the flower has to bloom before it can be eaten. And when Yu Qin and Mei Lin left for Qingzhou, it had not bloomed yet. But it has at this point, and the general decides to steal the flower and present it to Yu Qin's father. Yu Qin's father is sick, and he's very obsessed with the idea of achieving immortality. The general insinuates that Yu Qin was hiding the flower from him and plotting against him. Yu Qin, knowing the stakes of not being able to give Mei Lin the cure, tries to offer an explanation of why he hesitated to present the flower to his father. But the king is easily swayed and he sides with the general, seconds away from killing Yu Qin for this betrayal. He only relents when Yu Qin says he will undergo a trial to prove his good intentions and his loyalty to his father. And this leads to another scene that is completely bonkers.
有神识，天神发怒了，难道少君是无辜的？天神行动！天神行动！天神行动！天神行动！天神行动！
夫君，儿臣忠心可见。血龙须，请先还给儿臣。回禀王上，大祭司死了。
皇上，史书中有大祭司欺瞒天子，受上天责罚，以至于当场暴毙的记载。
原来这天上所示，是大祭司触怒了天神。大祭司死在当场，便是天神的警示。
The king decides Yu Qin is innocent, but refuses to return the flower and immediately eats it. And, okay, I know this isn't intentional given the show's Mei Lin Jinghe agenda, but I can't help but think about Jinghe whipping Mei Lin to quote-unquote protect her, versus Yu Qin being whipped to actually protect her and to try to save her life. And it's just like, wow, this show really wants me to root for Jinghe. That's crazy. I don't. I don't at all. Yu-Chin is frantic to find another method to save Mei-Lin, as she is now unconscious and clearly nearing death, and he approaches the kingdom physician. The only option she offers him is a blood transfusion, and while that doesn't sound extreme, what it means in this situation is draining all the blood from one person, therefore killing them, and then giving that blood to Mei-Lin. Yu-Chin is desperate, and as that is the only option he's presented, he agrees to let the physician do the blood transfusion. And if you remember the clip I shared earlier of Mei-Lin arguing with Jing-Hee, one central aspect of her character is that she does not want anyone to be harmed for her. So we, as the audience, know that this is an action she would never approve of, and that she would rather die than have someone die for her. Mei-Lin wakes up pretty much immediately after the blood transfusion, and Yu-Chin, thinking this is over, tells her that the poison has been neutralized. He then goes to the physician and thanks her, which is when he learns that this has only given Mei-Lin another 3 months, and she will have to continually receive these transfusions to live longer. And, again, I'm pretty sure it's not the intention, but I can't help but compare this to Jing-Hee. It's very clear to me that the writers have Yu-Chin agree to such a horrific and extreme action to make Jing-Hee look better compared to him. But remember when Jing-Hee endangered all those beauties? Wasn't that basically the same situation? And Yu-Chin saved all those women that time, and at great risk to himself. If Zuan Li had figured out that he had actually saved all those women, who knows what Zuan Li would have done. Jing-Hee took such an action because of his indifference towards anyone's safety. Meanwhile, Yu-Chin takes this action because he has no other choice, and he is unwilling to let Mei-Lin die. And I saw a lot of comments against Yu-Chin throughout the show, and around this point, I had the thought that, like, Yu-Chin is literally just trying to clean up all the messes that Jing-Hee makes. Because, like, everything he does that people consider a fuck-up, it's like he would not be in this situation if Jing-Hee hadn't done something fucking stupid. Of course, Mei-Lin overhears this conversation between Yu-Chin and the physician, and she quickly discovers the truth of the situation, even finding one of her friends that Yu-Chin had saved from Zuan Li near death. And Yu-Chin, in a panic, basically confines her to her room and has someone watching her at all times. And no, I will not defend Yu-Chin's actions here. This is pretty despicable that he's controlling her, but I do understand the reasoning of this. The only way to keep her alive is to force her to continue receiving these transfusions. And since he is unwilling to let her die, he has no other option. As we would all expect, Mei-Lin refuses to let the situation continue, so she fakes her death. Upon Mei-Lin's quote-unquote death, the show decides it's time for an update on Zigu. After the Emperor recovers from the poison, Zigu confesses to have developed feelings for him, and soon after she becomes pregnant. The physician informs the Emperor of his concerns for her health, and as he loves Zigu and is not exactly interested in raising another child, he offers the option to terminate, but Zigu is determined to go through with the pregnancy. Unfortunately, she miscarries, and as a result, she dies due to blood loss after a sentimental talk with the Emperor. Reminder that she is not 20 yet. So we have a very, very uncomfortable scene where Zigu and the Emperor assert that they are each other's great love and that they plan to find each other again in their next lives. She's literally a teenager, and he has 2 sons, the younger of whom is probably a full decade older than her. Like, stop trying to make me find this romantic. I know situations like this weren't exactly uncommon in this time period, but why is the show romanticizing this predatory bullshit? It's just gross, and it's very disappointing that Zigu basically only exists to initially be a roadblock to Mei-Lin and Jing-Hee's romance. and then to risk herself for the Emperor, and then to die to give some angst to Yuqin and the Emperor. Returning to Meilin, Jinghee is very distraught about her death and steals her body and starts taking care of her. He's clearly very in denial about the fact that she's dead, and when he finally seems to accept that she has passed, Jinghee tries to kill himself, but he is stopped by one of his guards. Yuqin comes by his residence begging to see Meilin, and as Jinghee starts to attack Yuqin, a few of Meilin's friends, who knew of her plan to fake her death, come in and steal her body. Soon after, Meilin then awakens and plans to start a new life in Qingzhou, choosing a new name and opening a cake shop like her mom had run. As Jinghee resides in Qingzhou, of course it does not take long before he learns she is still alive, and he starts stalking her, even when Jinghee presumes she has no interest in seeing him, since she did not wake up under his care for the multiple days that they were together when he thought she was dead. So that's great. Please leave her alone, Jinghee. It's very creepy. Of course, the narrative finds a reason to make them interact again, but Meilin is dedicated to the new life she is building and pretends not to know him. Jinghee, thank God, goes along with it. This charade continues until Meilin happens to visit the Qingzhou troops and notices someone sneaking around their camp, and Jinghee comes to her rescue. Jinghee is stabbed, and as one of his men tends to his wound, Meilin overhears a conversation about how Jinghee had done tests on himself to try to find a method to cure Meilin, something the show desperately wants viewers to perceive as Jinghee absolving himself of his poisoning her in the first place. Meilin decides to stop hiding her identity after this, and she quickly resumes a relationship with Jinghee the next time they see each other. Yuqin, relieved to learn that Meilin is still alive, makes a promise to help her, but she understandably doesn't trust him. Yuqin tricks Xian's general into believing they have an alliance, and tells him that he can seize Qingzhou, which is just so fucking funny to me, because, like, weren't you literally trying to prove to his father that he'd been scheming with the high priest, and he shouldn't be trusted? Like, why do you think Yuqin is suddenly being honest with you, especially after you tried to have him killed? Like, your whole thing is that you wanted him to be caught for scheming, and then you're shocked Pikachu when he schemes you. Anyway, then there's this scene.
渭北将军他重情，但更重义。
这种人根本就不值得你同情，只有我才会永远选择你。
慕容景和必须死在这儿！放箭！
住手！谁都不许动！
都住手！谁敢动邵君飞，本军定将他碎尸万段。
Was this important for me to include in summarizing the plot? Absolutely not. But Yuqin has always been on Meilin's side, and it makes my heart ache. Writers, you could never make me hate him. As I said right before I showed that clip, Yuqin had told the general that he had his blessing to seize Qingzhou and start a war with Jinghee. And in the penultimate episode, almost everyone allied with Jinghee ends up dying. Liu Mei was sent to get reinforcements and gather more troops. And when she is forced to fight the Xian soldiers, she is wounded badly and loses one of her eyes. But in the end, the Qingzhou army wins, entirely thanks to Liu Mei's efforts. In the final episode, Meilin's health deteriorates further, and now that the war is over, she finally discloses to Jinghee that she has not been cured of the poison. Both Jinghee and Yuqin desperately search for the flower needed to save her, but as the Xi'an army had started a fire in the forest when they wanted to distract the Qingzhou army, there is not a single flower left. Mei Lin then gives a similar speech to Zigu's, where she says she has no regrets and that Jinhee is her great love. They decide to get married before she dies, and I'll admit the wedding ceremony is pretty cute. Mei Lin's health starts deteriorating faster once the wedding is over, and she dies soon after. Jinhee ascends to his father's throne and becomes one of the most beloved emperors of Great Yan, but he dies only a decade after Mei Lin does, as he had been heartbroken the entire time. So it's clearly a sad ending for everyone, but I can't help but think of that quote that's like, "I will not set myself on fire to keep you warm." Because that is all the women do on this show. Jinhee poisons Mei Lin, and she keeps prioritizing his safety and his feelings, and she tells him not to blame himself for poisoning her, which she absolutely fucking should. Like, he is directly responsible for her death, and he doesn't even show proper remorse for poisoning her until the final 3 or 4 episodes. Zigu is forced into a marriage in the hopes of peace between Xi'an and Great Yan, and this teenager risks her life to save the emperor, and then willingly endures a risky pregnancy and dies. And like Mei Lin, she's comforting the man she loves while she's on her deathbed. Like, the show wants me to prioritize how sad it is that the emperor and Jinhee lose the women they're in love with over the fact that those 2 women die. Which is fucking ridiculous. Luo Mei deciding to stand by Zuan Li after learning of his betrayal was an insane development, but all she wants is to see him again and to be reunited in their next life. And Luo Mei's final scene shows her crying because she has not dreamed of him once since his execution. Like, their worlds revolve around these men. I think the reason the show annoyed me so much is that I really think this could have been something good if the Jinhee Mei Lin romance was not part of the story. As I've already said, there was nothing the writers could have done to make me like Jinhee after the first episode. I've seen enough in media and in reality of abusive men being rehabilitated. I came for the mystery and the wuxia, and I knew the show wanted me to like Jinhee by the time I finished the first episode. So, I can't say I didn't know what I was getting into, but God, I'm exhausted. Anyway, yes, I've been going insane thinking about how much these female characters suffered, and how the narrative wants me to like Jinhee so much, and wants me to think Yuchin is the bad guy. And I had to talk about this before I lost my fucking mind. Thank you for listening to my insanely long rambling about this. I'm sure this is going to be close to an hour. I love to hear people's thoughts, especially if anyone here watched the show. Hopefully I'll see you again soon, and have a great rest of your day. Bye!